Okay, welcome back. This is part two. It's very short, um, but most of the big block-ins were done in the first video. Here, what we're doing is we're putting in the accents and refining a little bit of the sky. I'm actually going to be putting another wash in the sky momentarily. Um, I'm just looking to see how deep I can go in some of the darker areas. I'm basically using ultramarine blue and burnt umber to get that darker shadow value. It's almost like what I'm doing is I'm kind of glazing over that wash that we did um, in the first video. Um, Also trying to keep some of the distance, so like the rocks in the back, trying to keep them a little bit lighter than the ones that are sort of in the middle ground where it gets kind of dark in that area. Another thing too, I have to stress that this this painting, as you can tell, I'm not painting every rock that's there in the picture. What we have to do in painting in general, but more so in watercolor, you want to try to simplify the shapes. You don't want to try to get too caught up in every little rock and nook and cranny. There's enough here to give us the feeling of this place very distinctly. So here I am again, just adding more accents, and you can see the underpainting. And I mentioned this in the first video that a lot of what we did in the first layer, the first washes, will remain right to the end, and you'll see that some of those brown rocks that are off to the side, out to the right lower hand corner. Yeah, they were some of the first washes that we did. And here I'm adding some darker values right at the foreground. Again, this is an effort to bring your eye into the picture and to create a feeling of depth. So you want to go full value on the foreground, and as things recede back, they can get a little lighter. Again, just like we see in that little bluff jutting out, or the point jutting out, just sort of like in the middle layer, right there where I touched the brush, right here. Yeah, I'm getting a little darker, but not as dark as the foreground. I just want to get a little accent so it doesn't look like it's underpainted. So I'm just drying off the surface. Still, most of the colors were ultramarine blue and burnt umber. Now, I decided, okay, my rocks are starting to get nice and dark. I want to make sure that my water and sky is going to be the same. That I noticed that needed to be a little pumped up because I went darker in the with the rock values. So not a big deal. I just wet everything down, and I'm just running some more paint, leaving my dry brush area intact. And here I'm adding a little like a turquoise to the blue, ultramarine blue, a little burnt umber, and that green was a little bit of sap green, okay, along with ultramarine blue to kind of cool it down a little bit more. So again, drying it down, and I'm kind of happy with those underwashes. I still feel solidity, yet there's variations in the rock. You guys can take a little time if you wanted to do that, like in smaller. What I'm saying is the areas that get brown and cool, like kind of shift over to the warm side. You guys could get a little bit more specific. I mean, I had to kind of move a little quicker to get the demonstration. Anyway, this is how I paint a watercolor anyway. I try not to do too much like little noodling and detailing. I try to just get accents, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm not trying to get every little tiny rock, but I'm just trying to create more and more contrast as I go. And there's some more there. And yep, just keeps moving forward. Little bits in here, breaking down some of the larger patterns to smaller ones, which wouldn't be a far stretch. A lot of those rocks are probably just smaller versions of larger rocks, many years ago. So yeah, so that's what we're still doing. Now I'm adding a little bit of interest in the water, some reflections just underneath those jutting rocks, those little rock formations that are popping up there, and that little jetty or cove there, eddy cove. And yeah, so we're adding a little bit more interest. Again, really more of accents, and not crazy detail. Like, I'm not trying to paint what a rock looks like. I'm just trying to paint the impression of the rock by just cutting in using a halftone or a shadow value. Now, I felt my fir tree up there needed a little bit more oomph because, again, we darkened the sky a bit, so we needed to get that a little darker. So now what I'm doing here is spreading a little bit of the spinning, and now I'm working on some of the waves right next. We're almost, well, we're kind of close to being done. I'm just adding little areas of accent, okay, and not just accent, but little waves, little white waves off to that point now. So I'm trying to get these shapes to look a little real. I'm adding some little wildflowers, and here I'm using that splatter technique to get some smaller flower shapes in there. And back to my white. Now this white has a tiny bit of the blue in it because I don't want it to be pure white, but just a little. So these are little glimmers of light. We are relatively backlit. The sun is high in the sky, but we're just adding just little flecks where we see them in the water. Okay, and now I'm just adding some to the rocks, just to give them like a little glistening effect in that sun. There could have been wave that went over them, or there just is some residual water, and just creating some just nice interest and little glares. Adding some more light on the water, and yep, some little just little bits. Again, little glares along the ocean. They could be little waves. They could be just little spots that the light's bouncing off of. And there it is. This is basically the final picture. The next shot that we see will be the. I think I do a little bit more. Yeah, here we go. So. I'm going around. There was some areas that I felt just needed a little bit more warmth and some more form. So I'm just dropping in a little bit of half tones here and there, and there it. That's it. So that's the final. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day and enjoy the painting. Bye now.